Hey, welcome back to the two-car garage. I'm Lucas, and I think it's been a while since we threw an update at you. In fact, I kind of looked back at some of our videos, and it's been about 2 weeks since we announced that we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, and well, I'll tell you what, it's been really busy since then. So what we're going to do here today is I do have an announcement I will make at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around for that. But for now, I thought we would kind of show you what's been going on with Curt's bug. I haven't been working steadily on this. I actually got called into my old job to do some substitute teaching, and so was gone for a couple of days doing that. And then I've really kind of been waiting on some stuff to be delivered. That stuff has finally showed up. And at the same time, I've just been busy taking care of other stuff. We've been helping some of our neighbors with some of their vehicles, and some of our vehicles have just needed some maintenance stuff, and you know, life gets in the way sometimes. But today I'm going to at least get you up to speed on what's going on with Curt's bug, and well, I think some of it you're going to find is pretty cool. So let me have a seat here, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff we got going on. All right, well, here we go. So I think the last actual update on Curt's bug, we had showed you the gauges that we were working on. And unfortunately, not a lot of progress has happened on that because I was waiting actually for quite a few things to show up. And this week, we finally got that stuff in hand. Now, I'll get to that in a second here. In the meantime, while I was waiting for everything to show up, what I've done, and I've got everything all wrapped up here. We went ahead and polished up all the bezels. It's not this one, it's this one here. So I just went ahead and got all the bezels cleaned up, and then we got them polished here. Now, I wasn't able to polish them as nice as I wanted them to be, and that's simply because the material they're made out of is well, it's not the best. This bezel here is just a brass bezel, and it's got a nickel plating on it. And the nickel plate is so thin that if I actually tried to polish it and make it look like a mirror, I know I would just be removing plating. So we really just kind of brightened it up. You can see how it glistens a little bit in the light here. You know, I think it's as good as it needs to be. Now, the original speedometer ring for the speedometer that we're going to be using was actually just painted black. That's the way they work. It was sitting in a black padded dash, and we didn't want to stick that in. So again, I'm doing this for Curt. I actually took a bezel off of one of my own personal speedometers. It's the same bezel, but it is chrome plated. And I went ahead and got this one all polished up. And, well, mainly the area that you're going to see is what I spent the time on. So, there you go, Curt. You're going to have a shiny chrome bezel off of my speedometer. And I'll just take the ugly black one, you know. Now, I don't have the equipment here to do the buffing. Well, that's not true. I have the equipment. I just don't have anything set up. So what I ended up doing is I just took the bezels and all the pieces I needed to have polished just over to a buddy's house. He's got a full buffing setup and all the materials I needed, and then he let me use his shop, and just went ahead and got everything polished up and really kind of made things look nice. Now, other things I've been working on while I'm waiting on all the parts to show up. I have here, this is actually the speedometer housing. And what I've done is I just went ahead and painted the inside of it flat white just to make things a little bit brighter. I do have LED bulbs that are going to be going in here to kind of brighten everything up, but I wanted to make sure we could actually see what's going on and not have the dim gauges that you typically have on these old 60s vehicles. So I went ahead and sprayed the inside of that nice and flat white. This is actually the dial. So this is what the face is going to be attached to, and because we're putting the white labels on here, the white stickers, I went ahead and painted the face white just to make sure that we don't have any black bleeding through. Now you'll notice that I left this section here black, and that is, well, for the next thing I'm going to show you, we wanted to have black in between all the odometer numbers. So that's what's going on there. But I also painted the back side of it flat white. Again, just for some light reflectivity, just so the light bulbs end up doing their job. Now, once I got all those pieces painted, I got the fuel gauge painted on the inside, made sure all that's looking good. I needed a center piece to cover up this big oval hole in the face of the speedometer. So what we did here is I just went ahead and machined out of a chunk of aluminum here, basically a little mini bezel. You know, so this actually has, if you look at this up close here, it's got a little raised rib. Went ahead and painted the center of it white, just to match the rest of the gauge. And then you'll see we've got the cutout for the odometer. So if I take this and carefully slip that in place, now you can kind of see how this all lines up here. So that's going to be the center of our gauge here. And this, again, it's just aluminum. What I did is once I got everything machined, I just went ahead and polished the outside rib. And I did that to kind of mimic the earlier style speedometer. So it really, again, has the flavor of the early 60s stuff. But then it's going to be adapted to this later, the 70s model speedometer. You know, so we've got the cutout for the odometer here. I've got my center dot for my high beam indicator, because this gauge has it listed in a different spot. And then you can see the two little recessed holes here for the mounting screws. So that's going to be the center of our gauge. And then, like I said, I just masked it off, taped it up in the center here just to make it white to match the rest of it. And that's kind of some of the stuff that's been chewing up my time. Well, now that I've got all that taken care of, really I'm kind of at the point where I'm ready to put the gauges back together. I did have to make some tools to help with the assembly, so we went ahead and got that all taken care of, and I'll show you that when we make that video. But really, the big reason I haven't done it is I didn't have labels. Right here are my actual faces. Now, I went ahead and I attempted to print this stuff myself. So I bought some white label paper and printed it on my laser printer at home, and honestly, I just could not get a good printing. So let me show you my first attempt here. So this is my first attempt, and I printed this a bunch of different times in a couple different ways, and frankly, my cheapo home printer just isn't good enough to get a good quality printing. You know, I got it printed. This one was probably the best of all the ones that I printed, and then I went ahead and put a clear label over top of that, just to kind of protect the laser printing, to make sure it didn't peel off. And I'll tell you what, after all the attempts and all the wasted sheets of vinyl, I just wasn't happy with it. So what I ended up doing is I just took the files and I sent them off to an actual print shop, my local printer here. And well, here's what I got back. So that is my final gauge. This is what I'm actually going to be sticking now to the dial on the speedometer. And I'll tell you what, it looks just as good as it does on my computer screen, and I am super happy with this. The other advantage to sending it to a real printer is I was able to get a good quality vinyl. So I went ahead and got one that's a permanent adhesive, so I'm not going to be worried about it peeling off of the dial. You know, think of this car sitting in the hot summer sun. You know, we don't want this to be, you know, bubbling up or giving any kind of issues in the future. So I went ahead and just had a whole set of these made, and boy, I'm pretty happy with it. So now if I take this, you know, the next step is to go ahead and apply that to the actual dial here, and now you can see this little center section here. If I get this kind of lined up, you can kind of see how that's all gonna fit together here. So that's what's been hanging us up on the gauges, was really just waiting on the printer. I sent the files to them about 2 weeks ago, and they were just really backlogged, and it just took that long to get things done. And you know, truthfully, it's a small batch job like that. It's kind of low priority for them. Now, some other stuff that I've been waiting on has been delivered. If you remember when I showed the kind of the mock-up on the dashboard of what things were going to look like, I just had these sheets of paper that were printed and taped to the dashboard. And that was really just to kind of give us a general idea of how things were going to look. And now that we know that this is what we're going to be doing, I was ready to go ahead and figure out how to get the gauges mounted. Now here are the original screens for the dashboard. And this is pretty typical of a Volkswagen, right? It's just got the little mesh here, and then it's got this chrome strip that runs down the center. And then this was the one for the right side of the speedometer, right? That's where our fuel gauge went. And well, here's my issue. We're using a round fuel gauge, and we got the square hole, and it doesn't line up. The gauge is not large enough to fill all this space. And then you've got this one here. That's where my air gauges are going to go. And really what I was going to end up having to do was to drill some holes in this to mount my gauges to. My issue with that is really it was just going to look kind of funny. You know, it would just look like somebody just slapped the gauges in here, and then this guy here wasn't gonna work at all. So I was gonna have to locate one from a car without a fuel gauge, a later model that had the fuel gauge in the speedometer. And then the same thing, I was gonna have to drill a hole in it. And frankly, I just didn't think it was gonna look all that good. It was gonna be fine. I'm sure it would be acceptable. You see a lot of people do stuff like that. We did look at some other options. You can get these panels and they're just completely smooth. They don't actually have the grill cutouts in them. But again, I didn't think it looked all that great. It kind of, you know, looked like every other car out there that puts custom gauges in it, and we're really kind of weren't happy with how things were going to look. So in all of my searching online here, kind of looking for a nicer solution, and also not really wanting to have to spend a lot of time trying to modify this because I've got enough other stuff to do. Here's what I found. There's this cool little company I found online called Grumpy's Metal. I'm sure some of you probably are familiar with them because they're I think their big deal is like ragtop parts and conversions for bugs. They do a lot of like window conversions for buses and stuff like that. But they also have this stuff, and I think they kind of had guys like me in mind. And here is the here's the screen for the left side of the speedometer, and you can see that it actually has a nice border for the two gauges, and then the little kind of cutouts, the mesh cutouts, follow the circle really tightly, and it kind of looks like it belongs that way. You know, if I take this one and compare that to the one for the fuel gauge, the original Volkswagen piece, you can see that they look real similar just in their design features. Not only do they have the two round holed one for the left side of the speedometer, they also have a round hole version for the right side of the speedometer. You know, so this is where I'm going to be putting my fuel gauge, since I'm using that round Karmann Ghia fuel gauge. And I'll tell you what, I think they look pretty slick. Now they come already powder coated black. We haven't decided yet if we're going to leave them black or if we're going to paint them to match the dashboard, or what exactly we're going to do there. So I'm not too worried about that right now. But I'm pretty impressed with this. It's a good thick gauge of metal. I don't think we're going to have any issues with things loosening up. It really does look like an original Volkswagen piece. And they have some different styles, right? I bought the one with two two small hole gauges for what we're doing. But you can get one with just a large hole if you want to put a tachometer in there. You can get one with, I think they've got one with like one large hole and one small hole. I think you can get 3 small holes. Really, you've got a whole bunch of options for what you want to do. Same thing with this guy here. If I remember correctly, you can get the single one, or you can get one that's got two holes stacked if you wanted to run two different gauges. So if you're running a bunch of aftermarket gauges like a voltmeter and an oil pressure and head temperature sensor and stuff like that, they've pretty much got you figured out. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and throw a website link to Grumpy's Metal in the description here. Grumpy doesn't know anything about me. He's never heard of me before, so I'm not getting anything for it. But I think it might be it might be interesting if you're going to be doing something similar to this down the road. So that's kind of the end of our adventures in the gauge saga here. Something else that's been keeping me busy. If you remember back when we had everything taped to the dashboard, just to kind of give us the initial impression of what things were going to look like, I had also mentioned that I had this little mock-up here for the valves for the air ride suspension, and it kind of was just taped under the dashboard just to kind of give me an idea of where things are going to lay out. After kind of talking things through, we decided to go ahead and at least try this and see what it's going to look like once it's made out of some metal. So that's what I went ahead and did. Now here I have the original panel that comes with the air ride kit. So you've got your 2 valves, and then 1 gauge will fit here. And again, we had 2 of these, so I would have to find a place to mount 2 of these. And really, they kind of look like an add-on. They don't look like they necessarily belong in the car. What I ended up doing is this. So I had a sheet of stainless steel that was kind of left over from another project, and I went ahead and cut this out to mimic this little drawing here. I kind of adapted it to fit the style we want. And now this is going to go ahead and be bolted to the underside of the dash. It still kind of looks like it's an add-on, but I think once everything's in place, it should look like at least somewhat belongs. We haven't decided if we're just going to polish the stainless yet, or if we're going to go ahead and paint it. I went ahead and used the stainless steel just to give me the option, right? If we think it's going to look best all polished up, we'll clean it, we'll polish it, and then call it a day. If it looks wrong, we'll slap some paint on it to match the rest of the dash, and then that's what we go with. So some of that still has yet to be determined. This isn't its final form yet. You can see I've got some real sharp corners here, and the shape isn't exactly what I want it to be, but this is at least the roughed in piece, and I just wanted to show you where we were. The next step for me is to actually get it mounted in the car and figure out what I'm going to do there. I have some ideas. I'll show you all that when we actually get to mocking things up. But at least you got a sense of what it is I've been working on. Now there is a bunch of other little things that we've been doing. Again, this is all kind of setting up getting everything mocked up in place. I went ahead and reassembled the doors, started getting ready to get the wiring hooked up, and then realized I didn't have the right wiring. The wiring that was included with the kit wasn't long enough, so I had to order some rolls of wire. Still waiting on that, so that's hung up my my progress here, but we'll get to that, and we'll show you that stuff in a future video here. The rest of it, again, mostly just little stuff. It's kind of that all those little things that you need to do before you can move on to the next step that really aren't important to show at this time. We'll just include all that when we get to those videos. But that's kind of the update. I know it looks like not a lot's happened, but it's between all the stuff I've been doing outside of the shop and Just trying to get all these little things done, and frankly, all the time I've spent on the computer figuring things out, time flies. So that's Curt's bug here. All right. Well, now that we got the update out of the way, I had mentioned we were going to have an announcement, and last video, I think that was 2 weeks ago, we had talked about having just hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, and what we're going to do to kind of celebrate that was to have a live stream. So we've spent, well, really, we spent the last 2 weeks just figuring that stuff out. Admittedly, we're not real good at this, so it took some time, but we finally got the live stream tested and figured out, and got that side of it all figured out. We went ahead and got a new camera, which is, we're actually shooting this video with a new camera, so let me know if you think the quality is better or worse. But now that we got that figured out, we went ahead and got the rest of it all planned out here. So here's what's going to happen. On Saturday, April 24th at 5 p.m. Central Time Zone, that's the Central Time Zone in the United States, we're going to have our live stream. I'm going to schedule it for an hour. I don't know if an hour is going to be too long or if it's not long enough, but really we're just going to kind of wing it. I have some plans as far as what we'll do to kind of keep you entertained, but realistically, we just want you to come hang out for a little bit of time. You know, you can ask some questions, kind of see what's going on. I talked to Curt, and I think Curt's going to be available, so he can actually ask some questions about his car live on the air, or just maybe share some stories or whatever's going to happen. I've never done this before, so we'll see what happens. So keep that in mind. If you're available and you can show up for a little bit of time, again, it's Saturday, April 24th at 5 p.m. Central United States Time Zone. Tried to pick a time where it would work for most everybody, and that's kind of the best that we came up with. So that's what's going on. I'll be posting more here on YouTube, some announcements and reminders and stuff like that. And I think early next week you'll see the placeholder for the live video pop up, and you know, you can save that and keep it open. So that's kind of what's going on. You know, between now and then we've got a ton of non-shop work to do. I told you we're trying to get some T-shirts made up so we can sell those. If you want to buy a T-shirt, we're working on stickers. Don't know if that's going to happen before next Saturday. Shirts available for sure. Stickers, we'll find out. But then beyond that, we still got to figure out some computer stuff and all that. But that's really where we are. It's been you know, it's been quite a hectic couple of weeks here, but I think things are starting to calm down a little bit, and we should get more into the car here. And now that I've got some other things kind of lined up, we hopefully can get some other videos out beyond just these updates here. So that's it. I got nothing else. So, you know, if you made it to the end, thanks again for hanging out, and really, until the next one, I'll just see you around.